It's the start of another day at Bristol International Airport. Every 24 hours, over 100 aircraft land or take off on flights across Britain and Europe. In the past 12 months, the airport has reached the milestone of attracting more than 4 million passengers, with nearly 1 million of those coming from Devon and Cornwall alone. Getting planes and passengers safely into the air is the result of teamwork between air and ground crews. And coordinating the work of both teams is the aircraft dispatcher. When things don't go according to plan, the dispatcher's job may get more difficult. But for airlines and passengers, it becomes even more vital. A severe storm has prevented the Air Southwest -8 from reaching its Plymouth base overnight. That means dispatcher Julia Russell now has her work cut out to get the plane off on time. And to add to her problems, the crew's been held up by traffic on the motorway.
Well, now the Plymouth crew are really late. Byron's going to come out and he's going to help on this one. He's going to do the Glasgow, which means we won't take a delay on either the Paris or the Glasgow. So it's forward thinking, teamwork. So what we're having to do now, Andrew and I are going to work amongst ourselves who's going to do what. So it will knock on to the Plymouth, Jersey later on. Hopefully they'll make up time in the air. They can put their foot down. It'll be all right, trust me. Susie, the Air Southwest crew have just arrived. Can you chase up the caterers for the water?
With the arrival of the crew, the whole process of getting an airliner safely on its way can begin. More than a dozen ground staff are needed for each aircraft turnaround. There's luggage to be loaded, toilets to be cleaned and primed, and food and drink to be taken on board. And no matter what the delay, safety checks to be carried out. For the first flight of the day, the captain gives his aircraft a complete once-over. For Julia, there's paperwork to complete. Numbers of passengers, bags and cargo, and fuel and takeoff weights. The same vital information for each and every flight. Today's Air Southwest flight to Manchester is now running nearly an hour late, but the ground crews are making good progress. The service air crew have arrived to attach the tow bar ready to push the 20-ton aircraft into its departure position. The plane and passengers should soon be on their way, together with their luggage.
Passengers have just arrived by road, so they're checking bags in, so I expect there'll be a lot more anyway.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we'll take that one though. The passengers that have just arrived up from Plymouth, they're starting to check the bags in now, so they're going to come along in dribs and drabs. So that's one, and I've just said to him now, there's another lot coming, go down and wait for them, otherwise he'll be up and down, up and down, up and down. Captain's done all his checks, passengers are nearly checked in. We're nearly there, nearly there. Oh, another one. Another one. Confident putting the bags in this hole, but in the jet you'll find I'm vertically challenged. All from Manchester Dispatch. Did you chase the toilet service, Susie? I did just see the truck go back into the depot, so there should be somebody there now. We need water in our toilet to enable it to flush. You can't really go without a toilet which cannot flush. Could cause problems. Could cause big problems. Go ahead, departures.
Doors 31 through the gate and the low seat, can you accept?
A firm, ready to accept passengers.
Just to let you know, all the passengers and bags have checked in from Bristol. There's no transit bags for passengers to expect.
Whiskey Alpha 2/1, 31 passengers and 10 bags, all copied through.
With the passengers getting on board, there should be just minutes to take off. But the much-needed toilet truck, or bucket as it's nicknamed, still hasn't arrived.
What about the toilet service? We're still waiting for the water.
I've asked them, they said they were going to return with a bucket.
No bucket at the moment.
Okay, I'll ask them again.
But between them, Julia and the captain aren't going to let a missing toilet truck hold them up any longer.
Well, what they're going to do is, Captain's quite happy to put a bottle of water down the sink now, and he's going to prime it that way, because obviously the toilet truck is tied up on another aircraft, and we're not going to delay for that. So that wasn't bad really altogether, about 32, 33 minutes from the time the crew arrived. He'll catch up in the air, he'll put his foot down, third cloud, and he'll be off.
Against the darkening sky, the Air Southwest flight finally sets off for Manchester with more than an hour to make up. On the fire ground, the men of White Watch are about to put a new training facility through its paces. For the firemen, it's going to represent something of a change of direction. Up until now, all their training and preparation has been aimed at fighting fires on aircraft. Now, they're having to look after the airport's buildings as well, including the main terminal block. It means they're having to learn how to fight fires in a totally different way and under circumstances they may not have encountered before.
290.
The £50,000 rig will simulate a rolling ceiling fire, a frightening experience for the most seasoned firemen, even if it is just training.
They're in an environment, first and foremost, where if they're not wearing breathing apparatus, they're not going to be able to function properly because there's still gases in there, there's still smoke in there, and there's still heat in there. So whatever way you look at it, they're actually in a hostile environment and they're actually working in conditions which they're not normally used to. And even a firefighter, for the amount of times that they actually are exposed to that kind of environment is quite rare. So realistically, it's something that they have to do on a training basis, on a regular basis, to prove that they're competent.
Okay then, so go on in, you come in. Check in the steam, okay? Check the steam, get a better spray than that. That's a better spray, okay. No sign of steam, in you go. Right, rest there.
New recruits Luke Roberts and Chris Broom are going to be the first to face the overhead wall of flame and heat reaching several hundred degrees. Preparing to go into the rig has to be precise and calculated.
Right, you're getting a rolling ceiling fire going through. Okay. This time, okay, I want you cooling that atmosphere. Open the door, couple of sprays, in you go. Nice and decisive, okay? Go. That's it, talking, well done. Go on, in you go.
From that side, they're going to get in there, they're going to actually be able to work with experienced firefighters and gain from them. And what they will find is that the firefighters they're working with today are comfortable in that surroundings, and that'll actually breed confidence for them. So the one big thing they'll come out of this with is a lot of confidence. They've qualified to wear breathing apparatus, they know how to wear it, but now it's applying all that sort of theory, which is the value of these kind of training aids. We can't carry anybody, but then we also have to have that team ethic built into sort of everyday life, really. Hence, we do train a lot. We actually work together, live together. So whatever way you look at it, there is a close sort of knit community of firefighters.
Come on, keep calling the gas, come on. Okay, is it all right behind you? Are you looking behind? Good, well done. Right, come on then. Moving along, keep full spray, come on. Okay.
Even though this is a training rig, the flames and heat are real and dangerous, and one of the watch has the controls, just in case.
Stay together, keep spraying across, get low, go for low. Come on, it's hot up there, you've got to stay low. Stay together. Come on. Keep going. Go on. That's it. Well done. Right, get your foot together. Okay. That's a good first attempt, all right? Most important thing, got to stay close together. A little bit more communication with each other, okay? Because just remember, it's just you two in there, all right? And the other thing, you've got to stay as low as you can. The temperature's in there, if that was raging and going really well, we're talking seriously hundreds of degrees high, yeah? So you've got to make sure that you stay low because you're up in that atmosphere. All right, that's a good first attempt, well done.
The Air Southwest flight touches down on its return from Manchester. With a good turnaround and some inspired flying, they've managed to cut the delay to just over half an hour. That's about the time it normally takes from landing to taking off again from Bristol. It seems there's not much chance of reducing the deficit further, but dispatcher Julia has other ideas. If she can coordinate all the ground services and move things along, there's a chance of cutting back that delay time even more.
You've got to make sure it's refueled. You've got to make sure that it's cleaned. But the Air Southwest, 9 times out of 10, the cabin crew clean it themselves, and we give them a hand, and they're very, very good, so that saves us time. But the fueling, and it's not catered, so you can turn it round pretty quick, that one. Are you going to wait until the bags are on and then see how many cartons you are on as well? All right? And you've got extra paperwork as well? I've got paperwork,
But no matter what the delay, safety still comes first, and the captain finds time to carry out his normal checks.
A firm. You may close the hold, thank you.
Julia, meanwhile, knows the clock is ticking. It's time to get the passengers on board.
Hello. Okay? Thanks.
Control from Paris Dispatch. Do you have a close for me?
Station control, doors closed on Whiskey Alpha at 12:25 with, 11:25 with 27 passengers and 02 bags. That made up quite a bit of time. Touchdown onto stand at 11:16. Closed the doors at 25. So what's that, 9 minutes?
Are you ready?
Yes.
As the aircraft leaves, the delay is a mere 10 minutes.
I think that's my quickest. My quickest and my fastest. Yeah. A good morning. Not typical because we usually got everything off on time, but the Air Southwest captain was really pleased because he came in, he just stopped, offloaded and more or less loaded the rest off, and he was off and he was really pleased. He called over on the radio actually to station to say thanks for the quick turnaround. So that was good news and a good morning. And the rain has stopped.
But being the second highest airport in the country, Bristol's weather is notoriously fickle. Pilots know they can expect more than their fair share of problems, either in the wet or in the wind. When the two combine, it can produce some spectacular flying. Today's weather is closing in with heavy downpours forecast and, more worryingly, strong gusty winds.
Easy 6056, confirming clear to land, runway 09, surface winds 12021 knots.
That wind is expected to reach up to 50 miles per hour later in the day, and for arriving flights, much will depend on the integrity of the aircraft and the skill of the pilots.
It's not so much of a problem for us because it's a fully automatic airplane, so we just tend to rely more on the automatics, and we have a full auto-land capability. So in just the pure low visibility fog conditions, we use that. We also get a lot of strong wind in Bristol, as you're probably aware, because it's built on the hill. That's a bit more of a handful for us. It's when we sort of earn our corn a bit more. The airplane has a structural limit beyond which obviously we wouldn't attempt the approach. And then within our company, first officers have limits depending on how experienced they are, and a captain has the limit of the airplane. So depending on the day, the captain may have to land, or if it's not too bad, then the first officer will land. But it's a bit more of a handful because obviously reduced controllability in the crosswinds and that associated with turbulence. It's generally uncomfortable for the passengers in the strong winds, but we can generally get in. It's very unlikely or very unusual that we have to divert because of the wind. They call it the Boeing landing, which is pretty firm anyway. So yeah, we try not to float. There's no time for trying to impress the passengers on a wet day. Put it down firmly. We have an auto brake system, which incorporates an anti-skid system, which takes care of the braking for us. And we try and maintain directional control, as I say, straight down the runway. But yeah, we don't mess around and try and grease it on, as they say. The only dangerous bit would be if we were attempting to land beyond the crosswind limits of the aircraft, which of course we wouldn't do. But other than that, it's more of a discomfort thing.
And the weather can also mean discomfort for passengers even before they reach their aircraft. With the rain now horizontal and the wind increasing all the time, it's a question of getting on as fast as possible or getting very wet. For air traffic controllers in these conditions, work is more pressurized than ever, with crucial information on wind speeds being passed as often as possible to flight decks.
The workload involved on each aircraft increases, specifically during the final approach and departure phase, if the weather is wind related. We could put on things like weather standbys, get the firemen out to watch the aircraft just in case they have any problems. We have to bear in mind that they may go around if the wind is significantly across the runway. And we have to pass more weather reports, more wind reports. We provide continuous wind reports as they're making the approach, so they know exactly what the trend on the wind is doing. Wind check, 14022 knots out. Wind check, 12025 knots out. 12030 knots out. Now 31 knots.
Bristol Tower Fire 1 mobile to weather standby positions adjacent to the fuel farm, over.
Under 1 Tower, roger, thank you. Weather standby then, runway 09 induced. 2 inbounds now. First one is an Airbus with 192 souls on board. Then followed by an F-70 jet with 48 souls on board. Runway 09 induced.
Roger Tower, first inbound is an Airbus, over. Bristol Tower Fire 1 9 weather standby positions, over.
1 Tower, roger.
When the weather conditions deteriorate, the airport fire crews take up standby positions alongside the runway, ready to deal with any problems a landing aircraft might encounter. It is a precaution, but at Bristol, it's a wise one.
We've experienced in the past, you can get, it's almost like a microclimate here, and you can get weather patterns come through very quickly. You can get downpours, which would cause maybe, a flash flood. Or like we had last year, we had a frozen weather front come through, cold weather front come through, and we had ice within minutes, not hours, but it formed within minutes. And these sorts of things, they do cause a headache. So we're here just to make sure that, if there is a problem, then we can respond and we can do something about it in the quickest time, available to us. And if you look at the fire station, if you look at the amount of traffic we've got on the apron, then we've cut through 50% of our travel time, and any hazards that might be in the way, we're actually out here and we're prepared for it. So that's, it's a good safety protocol, really.
But sometimes things can go wrong.
But the most famous one was however many years ago it was, and we actually had a flash flood, and we had an Iberian aircraft, Airbus, come in, and he did aquaplane, and he went off the end of 09 and he went into the grass area, and it basically shut the runway for a couple of days, didn't it, Bob? Which certainly restricted it before we could get towed out. And I mean, it was a large aircraft. That's the most memorable one.
Flying conditions are getting worse, even for the most experienced pilots. Judging the approach in this weather doesn't always go according to plan. The pilot decides on a go-around and must try again. But is flying in these conditions something which actually gives pilots just a little satisfaction?
Keeps you on your toes, for sure. You've got to think, and there's a sense of achievement, certainly at the end of the day. You know, it can become a little bit mundane and a bit boring on the days where it's bright, clear skies and we're just pushing the autopilot. And certainly you have to work for your money. Yeah, there is a sense of achievement. I don't mind flying in the bad weather.
The British Airways jet makes its second approach. This time, despite the wind and rain, it's a perfect landing, much to the relief of everyone on board. Next week on Airport, a race against time as the red arrows fly in and a Cyprus flight tries to get out.
If you ain't airborne by 10-2, you ain't going nowhere for half an hour.
And dealing with problem hares, are they going to be shot or is there a better idea on offer?
There's very few options left open to us to actually get the hares off the airfield. The other one would be culling, which in our opinion is totally unacceptable here.